Over the last 75 years, over 10,000 chemicals have been introduced to our food supply. Yet the EU only allows 300 food additives. But at Thrive Market, we bring our members the highest quality brands and restrict more than 1,000 ingredients found at conventional grocery stores, making the switches easy with our Healthy Swaps scanner, which finds better versions of all your favorite pantry, snacking, and home essentials without the added junk, dyes, and fillers. Plus, it's all delivered straight to your door. So if you're looking to shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health, go to thrivemarket.com/podcast and you'll get 30% off your first order and a free gift.
Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. So if you have no idea what this web series is about, this is the web series where we like to talk that real talk. We like to talk about things that are hush hush, that only a few people know about. Well, we like to take those things and put it out in the open, right? So we like to have that open discussion about very important topics. And since we are a step ahead tutoring services, we tend to focus on certain topics. We do have a scope of things. We like to focus on things in education, employment, mental health, physical health. We've had episodes about financial literacy, homeschooling, divorce. So we cover a lot of grounds, and today is no different. Let me get into the topic of today. So today's topic is, how do I read an IEP? And for those of you who are like, what's an IEP? Let me tell you what that stands for. An IEP stands for Individualized Education Plan. Yes, that's what an IEP stands for. I'm going to put the topic back up again. Yes, so for those of you, this episode is for those whose children are in special ed or they have special needs. There's, we'll explain all this in the episode, but for those of you with children who have special needs, or maybe you yourself are in special education, or you were in special ed, or you had special needs, this episode is for you. I encourage you to watch this episode. I encourage you to ask questions. If you're watching this in real time, type your questions in the chat. And I encourage you to participate in this episode. And for those of you watching this on the replay, if you have any questions, you can always put it in the thread, and we'll do our best to get back to you. So with that said, let's get right to it. So I have a guest with me who is going to help me with this discussion. She is a returning guest, and it is awesome to be able to bring her back. Her name is Dr. Dawn Menge, and I can't wait to tell you who she is. I'm just going to remind you who she is. She did a prior episode with us, but I'm just going to remind you who she is. So, who is Dr. Dawn Menge? Let me remind you who she is. So Dr. Dawn Menge has won 70 international awards as the published author of the Queen Vernita's educational series and Dragon's Breath, including the special with film Best Written Word from Miracle Makers Film, Hollywood Dreams Film, and International Author Boss Award from Power Conversations magazine. Her published works also include the 6 federal individual education plan goals and the effectiveness of their implementation in preparing for transition. Dr. Dawn Menge has a PhD in education. She specializes in curriculum and instruction. She also holds a master's and a clear credential in moderate and severe disabilities and a bachelor's degree in human development. Dr. Dawn Menge has been teaching students with severe cognitive delays for over 20 years and mentors and lectures graduate students. Dr. Dawn Menge is the mother of three and the grandmother of six beautiful grandchildren. That is a fruitful family tree. So I can't wait to get her on. So I'm going to bring her to the stage right now. Hi, Dr. Menge, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming back to the show. All right. So today we're going to talk about how to read an IEP or an individualized education plan, and you're going to break all that down for us. So I definitely uh, don't want to keep us back any further. So I'm going to, once again, as before, I'm going to hand over the baton and I'm going to let you take the lead.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for coming back and learning more about special education. I want to start out with saying that there are also 504 plans. Those are for students who are in regular education, but they need accommodations. They might need to sit closer to the board or have more time taking a test. There are different kinds of things, but those are for students who are in regular education classes. They just need a little bit of accommodation in each of their classes. So I teach students who have severe cognitive delays. They have the individual education plans. And so we're going to kind of break it down a little bit and explain it. And I'm going to show you some of the things my students work on in my classroom. So we're going to start with it. This is actually a guide for the teachers, but I'm going to show it to everyone. The 6 steps on how we write the IEPs and the IEP goals. So we're going to start with the date. And so the goals last for 1 year from the date of the IEP meeting, which we have a meeting every single year. We have to have one every year by law for each student. And then, of course, we have the student's name and the condition. When given a, whatever it is that they're working on, when working in a, or when presented with, what will the student do? What level shall the student reach in 1 year based on the baseline in the present level? So then we have trials and percentages. They will do it 100% of the time in 3 out of 6 trials during a 2-month period. So we want to make sure that the child can do it more than just one time. They can do it over a period of time. And then how is it measured? Is it a teacher-made test? Is it a standard test? Is it observation? Is it charting? And instruments? And who is helping with the goal? It would be the teacher, the assistant. It could be the speech therapist, the occupational therapist, whoever else is helping with that goal. Now, when we begin to have a meeting, which is once a year, remember, you can ask for a meeting more than once a year. If you, at any time during the school year, you can ask for a meeting. And then the school has a period of time to set up that meeting. So you're going to get a notice. And it's going to tell you who's invited and when the meeting is and what time. And then you're going to sign it. You're going to say either you can come, you need it rescheduled, or that you're going to not be there, whatever your answer is. And then you're going to turn that in. You're also at the meeting, you're also going to be given your rights. These are the parents' rights. And this is all of the rights. And every meeting you go to, you're going to be offered a copy of this to make sure that you know what your rights are, that you understand them. And if you don't understand them, you need to call and ask. You can ask during the meeting. You can go home and read this and call up the administration and get clarification. Don't ever go to or leave a meeting not feeling comfortable in what you have, the information that you have. If you're not sure about something, always ask. And always remember, you can stop a meeting anytime you want to. You can ask for it to be reconvened. You can ask to bring other people with you. That is your right. It's your meeting. Now, at the meeting, there's going to be people maybe that aren't able to come to the meeting. If I have a special day class, so we don't really work with the regular education teachers. So we might ask the parent to excuse a regular ed teacher from coming to the meeting. Or if the occupational therapist can't make it to the meeting, they would have called the student prior, talked about the goals and the present levels, but then the parent needs to sign an excusal that this person is not there and they're aware of it. And they've said that that's fine. They're going to have the meeting anyway. All right. And you can always have people on the phone if you need to that can't physically be present in the meeting. Now, this is what an IEP looks like. There's lots of information on it. There's, of course, the demographics, the parent's name, the address, the student, their birthday, emergency information is in here. Okay, and then right here we have the primary disability, and this is determined by the psychologist, the teacher, and the parent. They all fill out the forms for the meeting for the triannual. So every 3 years, our students are reassessed by the psychologist and the parent and the teacher, and the primary disability is then determined from this during the team meeting. And if there's a secondary disability, so the child could have autism and a seizure disorder, or cerebral palsy and a speech impairment. I mean, there are many different things that could be on here, and they're all listed on here. There could also be a third or a fourth, dependent on the child, of course. And then here's some prior information about the child, when they started in special education, when they're anticipated that they'll be leaving special education. So they'll be leaving on their 22nd birthday. And then we have when they last had their IEP or their triannual, that would be on here, and when their next triannual is going to be, the present date for the present annual, and then the next year when it's due by. If it's not given within a year, then it becomes late, and then we have to have a meeting. We have to make sure that we're having meetings when we're supposed to be. And then, of course, we have all the services down here, which would include the special day class. It would include transportation, which for my students is door to door. The bus goes to their house and picks them up, and then brings them to the school, picks them up at school, and takes them back to their home. My students do not go to bus stops. It's door to door, and that's stated on the IEP. Then it has all of the services, whatever they might have: occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, adaptive PE. And then it tells you how much they get, how many times they get it. If they get it twice a month for 30 minutes or once a month for 20 minutes, if it's individualized or it's in a group setting. And all of this is on here. And so the administration goes through all of this, and so do the service providers. And then the parent can agree to it or not agree to it, whatever they would like. And then if someone has reached their level and they no longer need speech services, then that would be discussed during the meeting. And then that would be taken off the IEP. And then that service provider would not be providing that anymore. Now, here's an IEP that's filled out. It's a fictional student. So this is what it looks like. And there is lots of information on there. And then up here in this box, it tells you what the meeting is. If it's transfer replacement, if it's an annual, a triannual, it's all up here. So it'll tell you what kind of a meeting you're having. If you have an IEP, and then during the school year, you need to change something. Maybe the child is changing their placement, or they suddenly are having a lot of behavior, say on the bus, and they need an assistant on the bus, or they need an assistant in the classroom. Then you're going to have an addendum. And the addendum isn't going to talk about the goals unless you're changing a goal. It's going to talk about whatever it is you're changing in that annual IEP. And it doesn't change the date of the IEP. So if you have an IEP in September and everybody agrees to it and everybody signs it, but then in January, the child starts having problems and needs an aid in the classroom, then you're going to have an IEP and an addendum in January, but the annual date is still going to be the original date. So you're not going to change that year. Okay. And then when you start writing out, it has the student's strengths and your concerns. So first you're going to find out the baseline, which would be, where is the child at this time? What is their level of learning? And then you're going to write whatever concerns they are that you have. So we're going to start with reading, and we're going to say that this child can read at a second grade level. Okay. And then what are our concerns then? What do we want this child to be doing? Maybe we want this child to be reading at third grade level within the next year. So that's going to be our concern. And then we have written expression. Now, a lot of times this is where the OT, the occupational therapist, is addressing fine motor skills with the writing or typing, just fine motor, putting things together. Math, of course, would encompass whatever the child is doing in math for them. It could be adding single digits. It could be multiplying. It could be identifying coins or adding them. Whatever it is you're working on with that child, and that would depend on the grade level, of course, of the child. The younger children are still working on identifying numbers and one-to-one correspondence. And then as you get higher, we'll start working on money skills, adding money, budgeting, all sorts of things. Bus passes. My students have to count out their bus passes and find out what $2.50 is. We have communication. Now, this is also where the speech therapist might have some of their strengths and concerns and their goals. And then we have fine gross motor skills. This, again, could be OT. It could be adaptive physical education, or it could be the teacher talking about what they're doing in the classroom. They could be out on the playground. They could have a physical program at school where they're walking a lot or they're running, and it would talk about this. Or for a child who doesn't have as much motor skill, it could be simply walking 10 feet. The child can independently walk 10 feet. So it, again, depends on the child themselves. Social and emotional. Do they like to work in groups? Do they like to stay independent? Do they like to go out in the community? What are their social and emotional strengths? And then what are your concerns? They can't stand in line, by themselves. They can't order their own food. I mean, whatever the concerns are when they're out and about. Then we have behaviors. Now, this is where you're going to put their positives, their strengths. What are their strengths and their behaviors? And then if they have any concerns, whatever your concern might be for their behaviors, they need to learn to be patient. They need to learn to say please and thank you. I mean, there's whatever it is the child needs to learn to do. And the goals here are created with the parent and with the teacher. So, and any service providers. It's a team that is working together. We have career and vocational. This could be anything from doing chores in the classroom to working in the community. And then we have vocational jigs, which I talked about before, that we do in the classroom, working towards that. And I'm going to show you several of the things we have in the classroom. We have community participation. This could be for the little ones. The community could be the classroom. It could be the school. For the older ones, it could be the community. It could be whatever the parent is doing with the child at home. If they're going to church or they have some kind of employment at home, whatever they're doing, they like to go to the grocery store. How are they doing? Their strengths first, and then if they have concerns for that. And the goals are where you're getting from the concerns. Daily living skills. This goes from being able to toilet independently or brushing their teeth. It could also contain money skills, being able to order and pay for your own meals. Cleaning up after yourself after you've eaten. Those are your daily living skills. Washing your hands when you're done with the restroom. And then down here, you're going to list what the needs are. So you would list reading and math, communication, if they have speech, maybe some community activities. And then this area of needs is where you're going to get your goals from. So if you have it listed here, then you need to have a goal for each thing that you've listed. All right. So this is also program options and rationale. Regular program participation. What are they doing in the general education setting? Now, some students are spending time in regular education classrooms. So this is what they're going to be doing. How much time are they spending? Now, for the younger, the elementary school level, they might spend quite a bit of time in a kindergarten classroom or a first grade classroom. As they get older, it's a little harder to do that, but that percentage is going to be in here. And why are they eligible for special education? Now, this is going to come from the psychologist's report. Why do they qualify? And what did they use to qualify it? Here, tests, evaluations. What did they use? What tests did they use? Okay, and then health, attendance. Maybe they've missed a lot of school or they don't miss a lot of school. You always write all the positives in there. And harmful effects. Is there a harmful effect to the child when they're in special education? And this should always be that they're not having a harmful effect. And then any extra comments that you might have about from the team, from the parent. We always write in what the parents say. Then we have supplemental aids. Okay. Vision and hearing screening. Okay, we do a school-wide vision and hearing. It's very basic, but it might bring up some things. And then the nurse, we have actual nurses in our classrooms that come and visit our classrooms, and they do the screening. So they'll talk to the parent. They come to the IEPs, and they'll talk to the parent about their health the last time they came to the doctor. What did the doctor say? They'll ask who your doctors are. They'll write all that down. You have to sign paperwork. Well, you don't have to sign it if you don't want to, but you can sign a paper that says that our nurses can contact your doctor and get the information that they need for your child to be in the classroom. Like, say if they need to take medication or they need feeding tubes, whatever special medical needs they have in the classroom, the nurse gets that information from the doctor, directly from the doctor, and then gives it to the teachers. And the teachers all have care plans. They're called care plans. Has all of the information, all of the emergency information, consent to treat. And we all have them on clipboards on our walls. So if anything happens, we have them there. We have all of the information. And if we have to call the ambulance or something, we have that information right there and we can hand it to them right there. So any child who has a special medical need, we have all of that information readily available. The student learning strengths and weaknesses and preferences. Parent priorities. What does the parent want? What does the parent see for that child? You know, it could be something at home. It could be independence in their math. I mean, it could be all sorts of things. And then how does the disability affect involvement and progress in general curriculum? So you need to write the accommodations that you're giving, a small group environment, whatever it is the child needs and why the child is actually in special education. That is here. A lot of that information, again, comes from the psychologist reports. And then there's supplemental aids and services. This could include extra training from the teacher. For the teacher, it could include first aid. It could include special training to provide a medical need for the child, whatever extra things you do for that child. Now we have the goals. And I kind of touched on that last week. So this would be the academic goals. And they look like this. And this is what we talked about at the very beginning, that yellow paper. So we're going to talk about, this is the present level. What is the child doing at the moment? What is their reading level? What are they reading? Sight words level, reading grade 2. They're reading functional words maybe, which would be community words, the stop sign, stop, exit, things like that. Or it could be restart words, food. They have shopping words, so you can learn to read when you go into the grocery store. And then we put that all right here and what their present goal is going to be. Remember, they have a year to accomplish the goal. And then as measured by, so how are we measuring it? Testing? Are we doing charting, observations? And then who is responsible for teaching this? The teacher, the assistant, maybe some therapists, but whatever the goal. This is where the speech therapists put their goals, the occupational therapist, the APE teacher puts their goals in here. All right, so these are for the academic goals. Now, like we talked about last time, children, when they start to reach the age of 15, they start having transitional goals, which is my specialty. This is what my dissertation was written on. It's something that I really enjoy teaching my students, is community skills, workability, work experience. So this is what the transition goals look like. There's 4. These are federally mandated. So this is, you can look up, and I will post the link for that under the Federal Education Department, and they will show you all of this. So again, just like the academic goals, you have present levels. What are they doing? This one you can pick. It's either a training goal or an education goal. And this one says, okay, this is a very high person, but I will read it. So their present level is, Colette is planning to attend a 4-year college or university after graduating from high school. She is thinking about Chapman University or other private or small college universities. She would like to study either business or public relations in order to pursue a career where she can work for an organization while running her own business. So she's very high, and she has very high aspirations, which is wonderful. Okay, so they picked that this would be an education goal because the child wants to go to college. So we have here Colette. After graduation or completion of high school, Colette will attend Chapman University or other 4-year college or university. I plan to study business or public relations in order to pursue a career owning a business, possibly a restaurant or a business that involves fashion. All right, so that's what she wants. That's her overall goal. So then right here, by and the date, and so it would be a year from the date of this IEP. So in a year, she's going to do this. I, Colette, will meet with the college advisory to discuss small or private 4-year college universities that have programs of study for business or public relations. Then add these schools to my list of potential colleges in family connection. So she's going to begin researching the colleges and where she can go and who's going to be able to teach her what she wants to learn. And measured by list of colleges in family connection. And then it says personnel or agency responsible. So we have the general ed teacher, the special ed teacher, and the student. And then we have a code and the activities to support the post-secondary goal. Assist Colette to find at least 3 colleges or universities she would like to apply to based on her interests. So it tells you present level, what the goal is in a year, who's responsible for helping her, and how is she going to do that? And how are we going to measure that she's completed the goal? So it's all there. It's all written down. All right. So I think that's basically, and this is a little bit about the triannual. Again, every 3 years, your child is reassessed. Now, you can sign a form that consents that it's just a partial record overall of the child still qualifies for special ed, and there's no doubt about it. The psychologist and the parent will decide if they just want to do a small form or reevaluation, or they want to do a full psych report. And you have that option every 3 years to do that. So if the child has had a lot of growth during that during that time period, the 3-year time period, then you might want to do a full reevaluation to see where they are. Actually, sometimes the primary disability changes. So you really need to know that, because the primary disability determines, as the child starts leaving public education, what the child is eligible for when they leave. So what kind of programs are available, where they might be able to go. So do we have any questions so far?
Well, first of all, I wanna thank you for sharing all that information. There's definitely a lot to take in. So, so my question is there's a lot of sheets that I saw.
Yes.
Um, so
That's
who?
only, they're now, when I started, they were done on carbon paper, and we had to make 4 copies, and there might have been 12 pages at the most, maybe, when I first started. Now I believe the IEPs are 50 pages.
So who's filling all that out? Is the parent the one filling all that out?
The teacher. It's the teacher.
Oh, so the teacher meets with the parents and
Yeah, we
all the
talk to the
other.
parent beforehand, and we're the ones testing the child, determining the goals. I talk to my parents before a meeting and find out, what it is they want to work on, what's going on at home, tell them what's going on in the classroom, what they want to work on, and we decide before the meeting, a consensus of what I'm going to write the goals about. And the goals are a draft before the meeting. They're just out there, and you're kind of working together, got some ideas. And then during the meeting, we talk about the goals and what we would like to do and the present levels. And then, everything could get changed. The parent could decide they want to add something totally different that we didn't know about, and we add it right in there. We decide how we're going to do it, and we add it in there. But the teacher is the one filling everything out. She's also the teacher here. She is also the person that's responsible for, they're called the case manager, and they're responsible for making sure that all of the itinerants have filled in their goals, that everything's present level, that the progress reports are up to date. They're the ones that make sure that everything's ready for the meeting, that everybody knows about the meeting, and things like that. So.
And how long does it take to put all that together?
Well, since I've been doing it so long, it takes me about a week to get everybody together. The newer teachers, they work on it a little longer because it's a little intimidating and it's a little overwhelming. So.
And then when the plan is done, how soon can the parent get started in implementing it?
Oh, it starts as soon as it's signed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever come across a situation where a parent may want a specific goal for their child, but you as a teacher say, "Nah, that child is not going to accomplish that goal," or the child does not have the mental capacity to accomplish that goal? So I wonder if you ever come across, parents asking for things for their children that maybe is unrealistic.
Well, yeah, that it's hard for the parents sometimes to accept that their child is not going to be functioning fully like they would like them to. And if we run into that, we very carefully talk to the parent about what we see in the classroom, what we feel. And then we try to accommodate, of course, the parent by coming up with a medium. Okay, we can't work towards that this year, but let's start baby steps. Where are we going to start at? And hopefully it's something that's been discussed, so we have a present level of what it is that the parent might want. It's hard if we've already talked to the parent, we've talked about reading and math, and the parent comes in the meeting with something that we didn't discuss, and so we didn't test the student beforehand. We don't have prior knowledge. We don't have a baseline to even have a conversation about. And if that happens, then we can reconvene the meeting also, so we can go back have the child tested by whomever needs to test the child. And during a meeting, you can also, if something comes up and a child needs a new service, if a child gets a hearing aid and they need that new service, then we send a referral out, and that specialist comes out and looks at the child and tests the child, and then we add that service. But we have both, parents are parents, and sometimes they have high expectations. And I would never tell a parent, your child's never going to do that, because I don't know that. We provide the child with the best education we can, but children, they go through, just like everyone else, they go through plateaus. They work really hard, they hit a plateau, and then suddenly it's like a window opens, and they just take on all this information. They suddenly start understanding what we're trying to teach them. Sometimes that only takes a week, a month. Sometimes it takes a couple of years, and they'll suddenly really understand it. And then we have a whole new area to grow in. And that's when we really want to catch the child and say, okay, this is working really well. Let's up the ante kind of for them. But yes, of course, we have, parents who have high expectations. We have parents who have low expectations, and we have to kind of help them raise the expectations for their child. We talked about that last week. Having children do chores at home, making their bed, doing the dishes, taking the trash out. Just like all of their siblings, they should be able to do something around the house to help the family, to make them part of the family.
Right, to find ways for them to get involved somehow in the home, or somehow involved in the school. You want to include them.
Yes.
So how many goals are on an IEP?
There are 4 transition goals. The academic goals, the speech goals, all of that on the other form. There can be as many as everybody wants to make. The speech therapist might have 2 goals. The teacher might have 5 goals, based on math and reading, career. And then you have an occupational therapist. I've seen students that had like 15 goals, and I've seen students that have had 3 or 4 goals. But remember that isn't the only thing the child's working on during the school day. They don't just work on those goals and then they don't do anything the rest of the day. There's a whole academic program. It's just those are very specific needs that the teacher and the parent see that the child needs to build up to the next level of learning that they have. This week we're learning about California. Today we were reading about Joshua Tree, the Joshua Tree National Park. It was Devil's Postpile the other day. Monday, I had an international cartoonist come in. I met him at a book signing. I'm a children's author. And he came in and painted a mural with my class and 2 other classes. And so those things are not in the IEPs, but they're extra things that we do. We're setting up trips to go bowling and miniature golfing. We're going to go to the fish hatchery. We're going to go to the trampoline place. We go to the movies. We do a lot of other things. My students go to work twice a week. Those don't necessarily have goals, but they are part of the learning process and their program.
So I'm wondering, does the child have any input in an IEP?
Yes, the child is invited to the meetings. And again, we talked about last time about the child turning 18 and they become an adult. Their cognitive level by law isn't considered unless they have conservatorship over that child. So the children are making their educational decisions, and they're invited to the meeting. And some of my students come and they put input and they talk about what they're doing in school. Some of my lower students, of course, don't come to the meetings. They're hard for them because there could be 15 people sitting there. But of course, dependent on the child. But yeah, they're also part of the process. This is about them.
Right. It's their education.
Yes. it's their life, it's their future. So, as much as we can, we involve them. I might discuss with them in class, what would you like to work on? What are you working on? I have a student who I moved several students last year back to district, which is kind of like graduating from our specialized programs. And he didn't get a chance to go last year. So he actually asked me about moving back to be with his friends. And so we talked about it. And then he came to the meeting and talked to the team about what he wanted and where he wanted to go and why he wanted to go there. And so he was a big part of his program and the decisions that were being made. Though the team made the decision, he was a big part of it.
All right. So what was my other question? All right, I think I'm drawing a blank. All right. Oh, sorry. So how does a parent start the process? So what's the first step in all this?
Well, if they feel their child has some disability, a learning disability, they contact the school. The school can test them. And again, the regular ed students have 504 plans. So they're in regular ed classes that need accommodations. Usually our students, they're identified early on that they need a specialized program like we have. They might start out in a district special ed day class. And then as they get older and there's more demands put on them, then they might end up in a classroom like mine where that's more self-contained. When I taught in the junior high, I got a lot of actually really high students because the schedule at the school was really difficult to follow. It was like A, C, and E one day and B, D, and the children couldn't follow it. So they were kind of wandering around the school. So they ended up in my classroom, and we did a lot of things, thankfully. I got to do some really fun things out in the community with them because they were higher learning. But it's usually, you could start if your child is identified with a disability in the hospital when the child is born. You can start receiving services when the child is born, and they'll come to the home and they'll help you. They'll help you with any extra services you might need, and they'll follow the child all the way through. So if you have any doubts, even if your child is little, 3, 4, you can go to the school district. You can go to the Head Start and get some information about having them tested to see if they qualify for services.
Absolutely. And of course, the child's never too young to be evaluated. There is early intervention programs from 0 to 3.
Yeah.
So just want to throw that out there as well. All right. So Dr. Menge, we're winding down now. This is
I brought a lot of things to show about what we do in the classroom.
Oh, wait. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Now these are vocational jigs. These are actually something we made. And they go from 1 step to the 7 steps. And I'll just show you real fast the different kinds of things that we're working on. This goes under the career management goals. And we start this, I have students 12 to 22. So they're starting at 12 to put these together. They work on them independently. They come into my classroom. I have several bookcases filled with these jigs, and they go pick their own. And that's the first thing they do in the morning to get kind of going in the morning before we have breakfast. So this, of course, they're just putting in, and they're putting the lid on top. Okay. And some children need to build their dexterity in their fingers. So that's what they do. This one is several steps. It has a smaller one. Okay. You put this in here. Then you put the top on here. Then there's a bigger one. You put it inside, and then you put a top on that. And then it goes inside this container. All right. And this is to work. You could work in a factory, assembling things. And this is what it's teaching them. And then they can get paid. We also have a sprinkler. This has 3 parts. They put these together. See, they put them together like this. They screw them on. And then they screw this end. Whoops, wrong side. They screw this end in. All right. And then we have these. They're screwing them on both sides. And we have this. Well, this one has a lot of parts. So it has the top, and it has these parts, and it goes inside this part. See, like this. And then this goes on here, and you assemble it like that. Then we have some of them that are a little bit easier. See, we just open this up, and then we put these on here. All right. And then we also have some counting. We have containers that have numbers on them, 1 through 5. And then we have, if the child cannot quite count yet, we have this to help them. So they have to match the number. And they have these little blue pegs. And they match them in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then they put them inside the container. And we also have the simple put in. We have this, and we just file it in here like this. And sometimes that's really hard actually for the students to do. We also have color matching, fine motor skills. We put them on here like this. Okay, we do that. We have the cards. They have different patterns. So they have 3 different cards. So they have to find the matching yellow, blue, red, and stick it in here based on the same patterning. Sometimes it says yellow, blue, red, yellow. Sometimes it just has blue, blue. So they have to follow that. And then we have a more complicated one that has very tiny screws. So this is some of our harder ones. And then you put it in here, and you have to screw the little screw in here. And then, of course, you put this on the bottom. And so we have this. This is one of our hardest ones. I can't even put it together, actually. It's a sprinkler, and it has like 7 parts. And I only have one student in my class who can actually put it together. So this is one of the hardest ones we have. But this teaches them so that they can go and work in a factory and get paid. And my students right now we're getting receipts from the local hardware store, and they're adding like 10 receipts together. They're adding them up and putting the total. And so we have a whole bag filled, and this is what we're doing right now. And then we're going to get movie passes and go to the movies after we get back from spring break. So there's lots of different kinds of things that we do in class that you could actually make at home. You can make all of these at home. This is filing. Actually in her backwards, but it has, of course, all the letters A, B, C, D, E, and we have our community words, and they have to file them under the right letter. So you can make this stuff at home, and your child can practice at home.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. All right. So you got, where's your banner?
I see.
Oh, your banner's, there it is. Okay. All right. So you guys, you can learn more about Dr. Menge's services. Her website is scrolling below, right? Or you could also follow her on social media. She is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So definitely check her out on social media. You could definitely learn, about her consulting services. If you have questions about what to put on an IEP, how to read it, you could reach out to her, and she can advise you on what to do. So definitely check her out. All of her contact information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And for those of you watching this on Facebook, the information will also be provided in the description. And you have a whole thing of books. I know that all of that information as well is on her website, so you can learn more about her book collection. So definitely, I encourage you to go to her website, buy her books, follow her on social media, contact her if you have any questions about IEPs, how they work, how to read it, how to break it down, what to put down. If you're facing any challenges or pushbacks from teachers or principals, whatever, definitely reach out to Dr. Menge, and she will help you out with that. And also her consulting services, definitely reach out to her. Is there anything else you want to bring up about your business, Dr. Menge?
No, we'll be back next week, and I'll talk a little bit. I did want to share some of the fun stuff. So some of my students, this is the educational impact thing that our district did. Well, San Bernardino County Schools, they did it. And one of my students was at the bottom having fun at the park. And there are all sorts of different things that we get to do. We have a prom, which we're about to have on April 7th. And one year, our students were actually on the front page of the local newspaper having the prom, the special ed prom. And we're about to have it. It's going to be Hogwarts. We're going to do the Hogwarts. But this is actually my student right here and his mom. And they're having a wonderful time. The parents get to come to the prom. And everybody dresses up. We dress up. It's semi-formal. We get all dressed up. And they serve amazing food that the school makes. This is something that I did when I first started teaching. And then we're going to talk about my books the next time. But this is actually how my series started. I wrote my book with my credentialing class. And then my junior high class, we actually made little skits out of them and traveled around. And they did the skits for the local elementary schools. And I would go back and I would talk about the disabilities and the behaviors. And it was put in the Exceptional Parenting magazine. This is when I first started teaching, so this was quite a while ago. But there's all sorts of different things that we did. And this is the campus beat. These were my students when they were in high school. This is my student. I talked about how they do the workability. They go out in the community. My students work at CVS and Walgreens. They earn a paycheck. So the high school campus we were on had a bank. And this is my student. She's cashing her check. She has an account at the school. And so she would go there, put her check in it. She would go and take money out when we're going to go into the community. These are my students socializing. And we had a snow ski program. And they're working down here. They're stuffing envelopes. And here they're skiing over here. And here they're folding the boxes at the local pizza factory, earning money. So there are all sorts of things that are available for our students out there.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for sharing. That's definitely amazing to see. And of course, parents, don't be discouraged. There's
Right.
lots of resources for your child, and we encourage you to take advantage of them.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Menge, thank you so much for coming back today. And, we'll definitely continue in the next episode. All right, so I'm going to place you backstage now. And I'm going to put up my banner. All right, you guys. All right, we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wherever you are watching this episode right now, whatever platform, if it's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, maybe Instagram, wherever you are watching this platform, I encourage you to check out our social media for more videos and clips, and don't forget to follow us. So whatever that button is, like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is, press the button. Definitely follow us. And while you're at it, let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. I would love to hear your feedback about this episode. And as a reminder, this web series is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about our company, what we're about, what we have to offer, our services, our workshops, if you're looking for tutoring for your child or even for yourself, definitely contact us. Our website is scrolling below, but I will just say it here. It is www.stepaheadtutoringservices.com. And you can also contact us on social media. All of our social media is scrolling below on the screen. And furthermore, I encourage you to sign up for our email list and texting list. You can learn about our promotions, our discounts, and our special events before anybody else. So I encourage you to sign up for the email list and texting list. Those links are scrolling below on your screen, and they will also be in the description for those of you watching this on YouTube. And I'm going to share this last message before we close for the day.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Note: we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
All right, and that's it, y'all. All right, so we will see you at the next episode. Thank you for joining us again. And now I'm signing off.